I love learning about people through the worlds they live in. So I love the efficiency of the camera. You actually can see the entire world here.
Yes, in a very real sense.
Plenty of your podcasts I've witnessed. This I love. Always beef.
Yeah, well, beef snacks, poor animals.
But it's made you healthy.
Well, yeah, healthy as I am.
This bookshelf, I think, is probably what most folks want to see. I see Noam Chomsky here. I mean, the usual erudite.
The metaphysical club. I had a metapsychological club for a while at the university. So some people I met that I thought were, that wanted to talk to me, and the feeling was mutual. We had a club that went for years. Graduate students loved that. Here, this is a catalog of all my art.
Of your art?
Well, art I bought.
You're kidding me.
No. Hundreds of pieces. I collected it after the Soviet Union collapsed, mostly online. And I got all of it for nothing, really. Yeah. Huge paintings.
Where are you storing them?
When we renovated the house, all the art went. This is an interesting one. Painted on an asbestos sack because they couldn't afford canvas.
Oh, gosh.
It's quite the representation.
Not a lot of art in asbestos. But there's a piece of art in here that's iconic.
Here on the floor, I had a carpet made out of it at one point. So I made this in 1985.
Oh,
it's a little worse for wear.
You made this?
Yeah, I made this. Yeah, I made a bunch of these foam core sculptures. So I think it's a new art form in some sense.
Narrate it for us a little bit.
Sure. Well, I was reading a lot of Jung at the time, and I was meditating on music. And because music has this intrinsic meaning, and I was trying to figure out, what is the meaning of music? And that's what this is called, by the way. It's the meaning of music. And I wanted to produce it's a three-dimensional representation of a two-dimensional representation of a four-dimensional phenomenon. That's actually what it is, because music is in 4 dimensions, right? It's got three spatial dimensions and a temporal dimension, 4 dimensions. And so this is something that explodes outward like an explosion, and it's a spiral at the same time, and it's a mandala, and it's a circle inscribed inside a square. And so I thought about this for about 3 months, and then I drew it in about 10 minutes, and then I spent 4 months making this thing. It's about 25 layers thick, quarter-inch foam core, and figured out how to make each plane a different level. And then I couldn't put it up on my wall because I didn't have a big enough wall. It breaks into quarters, so I had the quarters up. And one day after I'd finished it, I was listening to this piece by Mozart, 40th Jupiter, I think it's the 40th. And I was thinking, what does this mean? What does this mean? I had this overwhelming experience of meaning that just about knocked me over. I was shaking afterwards, and sort of a revelation of the idea that music was layered patterns and harmonious interplay moving out from the void to us, and that was a representation of the structure of experience itself, and that music was actually the most representational art form rather than the least, and all that was a consequence of concentrating on this and then building it and meditating on it. And that realization was key for me because, I realized that in music we had an incorruptible meaning that couldn't be destroyed by rational criticism, and that was pointing to something meaningful that couldn't be destroyed by rational criticism, and which is exactly what we need in the modern age. And then I had this idea that I would try to make this image appear everywhere and see if I could do that. So I made some stamps out of it. The Canada Post let you make your own stamps for a while, so I made some stamps, and it appeared on the cover of the Routledge book catalog for a while, and it's on my maps of meaning, and it's the logo I use online, and it's the meaning of music. And I made this I had this carpet made. I was going to offer this publicly, but it's kind of expensive, and I kind of did it once, and people were mad, so I didn't do it anymore. So this is the only one.
Why were they mad about a carpet?
Oh, it was kind of expensive, and so they thought I was being, I don't know.
Oh, you were selling it?
Greedy capitalist or something, yeah. I thought people might like it, and, that's why they could buy it if they wanted to. But
I'd like it.
But it didn't take, so that's life.
If you have an extra one, it's a perfect Christmas present for me.
Yeah, well, that's an odd Christmas present, but it's kind of fun to have it in this form, too. And so,
you know my wife. You know she'd appreciate it.
I found out much later, I got interested in Russian constructivism, and I found out much later that this is, in some sense, allied with constructivism. It's sort of architectural. The constructivists played a lot with layered geometric forms. I ended up with a painting, small one, watercolor by a guy named Nikolai Sawaytin that I bought online from Eastern Europe that actually looked something like this. So that was quite interesting. And there's an explosion of creative Russian art in the 1920s before Stalin clamped down and made everything into realism, some of which was quite spectacular, although very ideologically motivated. And I had my entire house covered with Soviet art, like 200 pieces on the ceiling, every single square inch, hundreds of paintings. Poor wife. My poor kids had to grow up in that. And I liked it because I could see the struggle between ideology and art in the canvases themselves. And that would transform across the years as we got farther from the Soviet Union. The art was dominating the ideology. The ideology just receded into the past. And that was so interesting to see.
It wasn't truth anymore.
Right. Well, the truth of the art, because, you know, some of the paintings I bought, a great artist had worked on, or semi-great at least, had worked on for months. So it was really something, you know, some of them. And the art defeated the ideology, even in the more political paintings. You know, that took longer, but it still happened. So that was really interesting to observe.
I want to thank you again. You've
Thank
opened
you.
up in many ways, and you help a lot of people.
Yeah, well, you helped me a lot too, so, you know, hooray
All right.
for that.
Let's go eat something.
Okay.
I want some steak.
Yeah, no kidding.